All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going on an intense, fact-packed journey covering 10 mind-blowing facts about a truly legendary predator. We're talking about a dinosaur that absolutely ruled its environment millions of years before that famous asteroid hit. A creature practically tailor-made for dominance, the Albertosaurus. Now, be honest. When you think of North America's ultimate late Cretaceous predator, your mind probably jumps straight to T-Rex, right? It's the superstar. But what if I told you there was an earlier, sleeker, and maybe even more terrifyingly coordinated cousin that conquered the landscape way before the Rex? Think T-Rex was the ultimate predator? Well, stick around, because by the end of this countdown, you might just change your tune.
Section 1. The Apex of Alberta. Let's briefly touch on its discovery and origins.
Here's fact number 1. Our story officially kicks off in 1905. Now, the very first partial skull of this guy was actually dug up back in 1884 by a geologist named Joseph Burr Terrell, out along the Red Deer River. But it wasn't until 1905, which, not coincidentally, is the exact same year Alberta became a Canadian province, that American paleontologist Henry Fairfield Osborn officially named it Albertosaurus Sarcophagus. And get this, that name literally translates to flesh-eating lizard from Alberta. I mean, it's so iconic, it's basically woven into the foundational DNA of the region.
Moving right along to Section 2, Built for Speed. This is where things get really wild with its anatomy and agility.
Fact number 2. This animal was an absolute speed demon. While the later, larger Tyrannosaurians were incredibly bulky and powerful, Albertosaurus rocked relatively long lower leg and foot bones. The estimates? They suggest this thing could max out its speeds around 40 kilometers per hour. Just to put that into perspective for you, that is faster than Usain Bolt's average sprinting speed. And we're talking about a creature that weighed up to 3 tons. Oh, and the juveniles? Yeah, they were even faster. Terrifying, right?
Which leads us seamlessly into fact number 3, agility. I mean, speed in a straight line is one thing, but if you're hunting, you've got to turn. Biomechanical research shows that Albertosaurus had a much lower rotational inertia compared to bulkier cousins like the T-Rex. Because it was so sleek and packed these massive leg muscles specifically adapted for pivoting, an Albertosaurus could practically turn on a dime. T-Rex, with all that extra heavy body mass, was significantly slower to rotate. If you were the prey trying to outflank an Albertosaurus, man, you simply wouldn't stand a chance.
Now, fact number 4 might actually seem like a massive disadvantage at first glance. Think about bite force. A T-Rex boasted a bone-crushing bite of up to 57,000 newtons, but Albertosaurus? Only about 3,413 newtons. So why the huge drop-off? Well, because Albertosaurus didn't really need brute force bone crushing. Instead, it relied on this devastatingly swift bite-and-slice tactic. It was an assassin, you know, not a sledgehammer. And honestly, that perfectly tees up fact number 5. How on earth did their teeth survive that kind of violent hunting style? Well, their teeth were basically shaped like serrated bananas, and at the base of these tiny microscopic serrations were these specialized round voids called amphichili. When the Albertosaurus clamped down and violently ripped backward to tear flesh away, these little round spaces diffused the tension across a wider surface area. It's a brilliant evolutionary hack. It stopped the crack of the serration from spreading, so their teeth literally wouldn't shatter under all that pulling force. So let's recap. We've got a wildly fast, incredibly agile predator with a highly specialized bite and slice method. But what if there wasn't just one of them? This brings us to a question that has literally kept paleontologists up at night. Did tyrannosaurs actually hunt in packs? Let's dig into Section 3, the pack hunter theory, exploring their social behaviors. Fact number 6 completely changes the game here. At a site in Alberta known as the Dry Island Bone Bed, paleontologists found the remains of at least 26 distinct Albertosaurus individuals, all dead together. And this group was diverse, ranging from a massive old adult all the way down to incredibly swift 2-year-old juveniles. This heavily points to pack behavior. The leading theory right now? Those super fast, long-legged juveniles acted as flushers. They would run down and drive panicked prey right into the crushing jaws of the bigger, more powerful adults waiting in ambush. Wild to think about. And fact number 7 gives us a peek into just how these juveniles grew up. When scientists look at bone histology, basically the microscopic structure inside the fossils, it shows that teenage Albertosaurs went through an absolutely insane growth spurt. During this phase, they packed on a staggering 268 pounds per year. They were literally ballooning into apex predators right before the ecosystem's very eye.
Which brings us to fact number 8. This one solves a really long-standing paleontology mystery. For years, scientists were scratching their heads wondering why we find so few juvenile Albertosaurus fossils compared to the adults. Was it just preservation bias? Like, maybe their smaller bones just didn't fossilize well? Well, actually, the evidence points to something way cooler. Because these young predators grew so incredibly fast and were just so effective at hunting and surviving, their mortality rates were insanely low. They were just so large and lethal that they rarely ever died before reaching adulthood. But hey, let's be real. Life in the late Cretaceous wasn't exactly a harmonious family affair. Fact number 9 exposes a pretty brutal reality. Up in the Danic bone bed, which is actually right inside modern-day Edmonton, researchers found an Albertosaurus's pubic bone covered in tooth marks from its own kind. Yeah. If times were tough, or maybe a rival died, these carnivores absolutely engaged in cannibalistic scavenging. They used whatever resources they needed to survive. No food went to waste.
Finally, Section 4, a climate extinction. Let's look at their final days. Fact number 10 is going to correct a huge misconception. We all know about the famous asteroid impact that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs roughly 65 million years ago. But check this out. Albertosaurus actually disappeared around 70 million years ago. Why? Well, they were victims of something called the Middle Maastrichtian event. This was a massive period of global warming, changing precipitation, and huge sea level fluctuations. It completely rewrote the flora and fauna of North America. The environment shifted, their prey changed, and this incredibly specialized apex predator, it simply couldn't adapt fast enough to the shifting climate.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've just explored how an animal built for ultimate agility, specialized pack hunting, and sheer dominance over its landscape was completely erased from the Earth. And not by a sudden, fiery asteroid, but by a shifting global climate. So if a dominant apex predator like Albertosaurus could be wiped out purely by changing ecosystems, what does that mean for the fragile ecosystems we have today? It's a pretty humbling reminder of the sheer power of our planet's climate. Take that thought with you and keep questioning the history written in the rocks. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.